Alrighty, I'm answering the question, escalope potatoes with Gruyere cheese, cream, and onions. This is a really simple and delicious potato dish. And I'm going to put it together for you right now so fast you're not going to believe it. The only thing I need is a small mixing bowl because I want to season the cream, Richard, before we pour it onto the potatoes. Now, you can cut your potatoes on a mandolin, if you will. You don't have to, though. I'm going to show you how to cut your potato. And you don't, just because you can't do it at the speed that I'm going to do it, I'm going to show you what speed you can do it at. You can cut your potato slow, like that, if you want. If you have a mandolin, you can use it, no problem. Again, I cut the bottom off a little bit so it sits flat on the table. It doesn't roll around one side. So if you're cutting it slow at home, you just cut it slow. Get rid of the black spots on the potatoes. We don't need any of that. I think we have enough potato right there. What do I use? A potato and a half, 2 potatoes. Now, I'm going to put a little layer of potatoes in the pan. This dish, by the way, is about as classic French as you can get. And we're going to slice a little bit of onion. Thin.
Chef, what is a scallop?
Good question. Richard says, what does an escalope mean? Escalope means thin or thinly sliced. It doesn't mean anything else. I hear a lot out there when people say escalope potatoes, it automatically means, or something au gratin, for example, automatically means with cheese, or escalope potatoes means a certain thing. It doesn't. It only means something is thin that it's being made with. That's all. So we're going to put a little bit of onion on that layer, and we're going to put a little bit of pepper. And we're going to put a little bit of garlic. And we're going to put a little bit of Gruyere cheese. Maybe not so much of a little bit of that. And something about the cheese. If you don't want to grate your cheese, or you don't, you know, if you think it's too much work or whatever, you can just dice the cheese up small too, because it's going to melt inside this casserole anyway. So we're going to do a combination of a little grated and some diced, so you can see that it makes no difference really. These are the simple things in cooking, knowing that make doing the cooking a lot easier, and then consequently it's a little bit more fun. Because if you didn't have a grater for some reason, you say, oh, I don't have grated cheese, I can't make the dish. You don't want to think like that. Here's an alternative to that right here, see? Okay, so we'll put a little bit more cheese on there. And let's put some salt on there. Now you can, of course, add gorgonzola cheese with this, or just gorgonzola, or again, like I said, mix them together. More potatoes. And kind of layering this a little bit, but you're not being too fussy about it. A little bit more onion. Now, in the potato lesson, which is further on down the line in this course, we have another escalope potato dish that's layered and a little bit more pristine. But this is a very family-style classic French version right here. I would never downplay the value of this one. This one's very easy. And without overemphasizing this, it's very hard to screw this up. The only way I can see you doing it is if you put maybe too much salt in it or something like that, you know. A little garlic. And more cheese. Let's just put a few more potatoes. What happens when you bake this is it has a tendency to sink a little bit. So you can overload a little bit on the top end, and as it cooks, it will get a little bit smaller. This is also a very good dish for making it in advance, putting it in the fridge, and then reheating it when you want it. It reheats very well, both in the oven or the microwave. Okay, let's do just a pinch more onion here. Again, the same layers of all the same things again, a little bit of salt, garlic. I think we got enough garlic on this thing all the way around, and not too much. Pepper, and let's put a lot of cheese on there. I love a lot of cheese on this particular potato. Let's cut up a little more. This one I'm going to bake at about 350, not 400. Because these potatoes are not cooked, unlike some of the other dishes that have cooked potatoes in them. And you're going to take the time to cook them. Now, how do you know when they're done? How do you take them out of the oven? My standard response, of course, is take them out when they're done. But the checking of the doneness level, in the case of a potato dish that's baked in any casserole, always includes taking a piece of the potato out of the casserole and eating it. If it's not tender enough to eat, it's not done. If it is tender enough to eat, there's a very good chance that the dish itself is done. But the most important thing is that the potato is cooked, okay? So now, I need a whisk too, Richard. We're going to take some cream, and we're going to season the cream. Thank you. With some salt. And we'll put some parsley in here, right in the cream too. You want the cream seasoned the way you want so that it dispels the seasoning evenly throughout the potato dish before you bake it. You're noticing that every single thing that goes into this dish is getting seasoned somehow. Each layer and so on and so forth. You wouldn't just pour the cream in now because it would dilute the seasonings that you already added to it. That needed a pinch more salt. We're assuming that I have enough cream here. This is, you can put too much cream in this dish and not know it. And it could end up being a little bit runny. You don't want that. This cream will not really reduce very much during the cooking process. So you don't want to put more cream in there than you think. But you'll test it one day and you'll find out. The recipe, the way I have it written on your PDF, if you can access that, is pretty accurate. So just pour the cream. Boom, just like that. In my particular case, I want a little bit more parsley. And one of the things that this recipe calls for also is some thyme. Now you can put the thyme on the top. I like to do that. Or you can mix the thyme into the middle the way you're adding the garlic and so on and so forth. You can also add thyme, but I like to put it on the top too. So there you have it. Now I'm going to pop this in the oven. This is going in at 350. And we're going to do a time-elapsed completion on this dish, as we do so many of them, and I'll be back in probably about an hour and a half for this dish. Got to cook it slow, maybe possibly a little less than that, possibly a little bit more than that. Whatever it is, I'll let you know how much, what it was, and we're going to bake it at 350. So I'll be back right now. Okay, we're back, like I said, immediately with the escalope potatoes. And I had them in the oven at 350 degrees, in a convection oven, by the way, in this particular case. It was about 45 minutes to an hour. It cooked much faster. It wasn't that deep. One could make this dish in a deeper pan. Obviously, it would take a little bit longer, too. Or cook it at 325, or not in a convection oven. And we got a lot of heat on this case, and we'll take a look at it right now, and I'll show you what I mean. That looks really, really good. Now you got a little bit of fat separated from the cream there, no big deal. I would normally not dab that off, but I'm just showing you how easily you can if you want to, okay? This smells absolutely spectacular. One of the things that you can do with this dish also is you can put it in the fridge, and then when it's cold, you can go in here and cut yourself portions and then reheat it so that when you're scooping it out, it comes out more the way you want it to, if you will, if you have a need for that. If not, and you're just going to serve it family style, then I wouldn't screw with that at all. Well, let's take a look at what the potato looks like on a plate, okay? Come on down here, Richard. Look at that cheesy, gooey, yes. You want to make sure that each person gets a little bit of the brown. Look at that. See how it's a little bit wet, but it's not that runny. Just wet enough to be what it is, okay? A little fresh parsley on that one. Pretty simple. I told you. This dish is classic French. It's really good. Doesn't cost that much. You can substitute the Gruyere cheese with Swiss or blue cheese, or you could skip the cheese, but I can't imagine doing that. It would still taste good. But if you should happen to choose to want to skip the cheese, I would add a little more onion, a little bit more garlic, maybe a couple of fresh herbs or something to it, you know, give it a little bit more zing, because the cheese makes it happen. Anyway, you enjoy this potato. This is a timeless, lifelong potato to satisfy anyone at your table.